I can tell you is that we have a great group of people, which they don't. They have Jasmine Crockett, a low IQ person. They have AOC's low IQ. You give her an IQ test, have her pass like the exams that I decided to take when I was at Walter Reed.
Oh, it's that time of year again where Donald Trump doesn't understand what a dementia test is and lashes out at some women of color for being clearly smarter than him. So Trump, we don't need you to tell us that Jasmine Crockett and AOC are low IQ. We know what that means when you say it. We know that it only is used against people of color. All that identity politics stuff is super clear. But I will definitely take this opportunity to point out to everyone, not only how stupid you are, but how awesome it is that he's once again being given one of these tests and what it perhaps, presages for the future. Let's jump into some more of his commentary.
Those are very hard. They're really aptitude tests, I guess, in a certain way, but they're cognitive tests. Let AOC go against Trump. Let Jasmine go against Trump. I don't think Jasmine, the first couple of questions are easy. A tiger, an elephant, a giraffe, When you get up to about 5 or 6, and then when you get up to 10 and 20 and 25, they couldn't come close to answering any of those questions.
Oh, I'm so glad they got specific about the questions. It's an aptitude test. It's a cognitive test. No, it's not. It's a dementia test. It ain't testing your IQ. It's not being used to put you into the gifted and talented program in your school or whatever. So he doesn't understand that, or more likely he's being lied to about it by his followers, which is just delicious. And I'm gonna dive into so much fun stuff. But just remember that as that video is going on, Marco Rubio is standing behind him, and Marco Rubio knows that that's a dementia test. So this guy that he has to pretend to respect and admire, because otherwise he will be fired, he has to stand there and nod as Grandpa talks about how he aced a dementia test. So anyway, just for the record, Jasmine Crockett's a lawyer, obviously an incredibly intelligent and educated woman. As Theophilus points out on Twitter, AOC graduated cum laude from Boston University with a degree in economics and international relations. Trump bragged about identifying animals at Walter Reed, which is so true, obviously, and we'll get to that. AOC did jump in as well to say, hello, Mr. President. Out of curiosity, did those doctors ask you to draw a clock by any chance? Was that part hard for you too? Asking for 340 million people. Because it isn't just that Donald Trump is taking this test and passing or failing it. It's that he's talking openly about how difficult it is. He even said the animals. So he can't even, he's been criticized for that before about not understanding the difference between a dementia test and an IQ test. So what he could do is don't be specific about what's on it. And then your base could pretend to think it's an actual aptitude test or an actual IQ test. But no, he made sure it's got the animal identifications on it. So here's the actual test. Let's bring that up. And you can see the identifying a horse, identifying a duck, identifying a tiger, which can be tricky. I mean, my daughter nailed it about a year ago, but Donald Trump is still having a little bit of trouble. To be fair, he said that might be the easy part. So it gets really hard. And he didn't say exactly what part of it was so hard. So why don't we dive into it and see if we can figure out exactly which part gave him so much trouble? Was it this? Was it where you have to copy the drawing of the bed, the lines, and it's literally in front of you as you copy? Can you do that, Donald Trump? That's one of the earlier ones. That's probably not what it means. What about this? Is it when you have to repeat the words back? This one's actually a toughie. Because it's not person, woman, man, camera, TV anymore. Now it's leg, cotton, school, tomato, white. And you might have to wait a few minutes before you repeat it. Then we're getting into some tough stuff. But let's move even further. Obviously, now we're getting to stuff where you probably have to have completed your doctoral work, maybe a master's equivalent or something. Was it this where you have to come up with as many B words as you can? I can help you out, Trump. I can come up with a couple for you, I think, at this point. But let's move even further. He said it's the latest ones. Once you get to the 25th question, they couldn't even come close to answering it. Here are the literal last 6 questions on the test. What is the date? What is the month? What is the year? What is the day? What place are you at? And what city are you in? I don't know AOC. She hasn't been on the show in a while, and I've never had the pleasure of meeting Jasmine Crockett, so maybe I'm getting out over my skis here. But I think they know what city they're in. And I think they know what year it is, Trump. But that is literally the test that he is bragging about still. Amazing. In challenging AOC and Jasmine Crockett to take an IQ test, Donald Trump inadvertently revealed that at his second annual physical of the year, which is already delightful that that's happening, he took yet another test for dementia. That actually says something, but that wasn't the only thing that he revealed. That already would be significant. Why is it that Donald Trump is taking multiple annual physicals a year, and why is he being tested for dementia over and over and over again? Stick a fork in that. That's interesting. Okay, or stick a pin in that. Let's move on to the other thing that he inadvertently revealed. Take a look at this.
You got an MRI. It was perfect. Yeah. I mean, I gave you the full results. We had an MRI and in the machine, the whole thing, and it was perfect. Yeah.
Now, look, I don't know if he's being honest about it being perfect or whatever, and I don't really care about that. It's just that he revealed he had an MRI. And what is great about that, and what is perhaps in like hindsight, not super surprising about him revealing it, is Donald Trump has no idea what is normal in life. He has been a billionaire for many years. He's been the president for years. He doesn't know what's normal and what's abnormal. But let me tell you, you do not routinely get an MRI. I mean, you probably don't need to know that if you're one of the Americans lucky enough to have health insurance. And I understand that's a smaller group than it used to be, and soon it'll be even smaller thanks to the Republicans. You don't just get MRIs randomly. You get MRIs in response to specific things. But that said, I'm not a doctor. Why don't we go to a doctor? CNN had this doctor, this is Jonathan Reiner, on to talk about some of the reasons that you might get an MRI in these situations.
Why might the president have had an MRI during this checkup?
Well, an MRI is never part of a routine evaluation, whether you're president of the United States or whether you're just a civilian. So we don't know why his doctors asked him to undergo that test, and that's a big question. The other question is, why did they decide not to inform the public that they were doing that? Why was that deliberately left out? There are a lot of things that can prompt an MRI, and typically they're prompted by symptoms. There can be neurologic symptoms that prompt an MRI. There could be back pain that prompts an MRI. There can be issues with the heart that would prompt an MRI. And for those reasons, the public should really be told, why did the president undergo the test, what consultants he saw, and what was the result of the testing.
Okay, so I think there's some interesting stuff there. First of all, I've always, I'm gonna be completely upfront. You feel free, send in a comment, a tweet, whatever. I don't know how much disclosure should be required in terms of the health of the presidency. But let's be clear, we have always been given quite a bit of information, at least up until, 6 or 8 or 10 years ago. Obviously with Biden, they were leaving out some stuff, and obviously with Donald Trump, they're leaving out some stuff as well. But back during the 90s, we knew a lot about Bill Clinton's health. We even knew about some of his recreational behaviors back then. But with Barack Obama, they would tell you a lot. If the president is getting an MRI because of either brain problems or back problems or something like that, like we probably should know about that, or at least typically we would have known about that. And what's really interesting, and again, it gets to Donald Trump and how disconnected he is from everything that's going on. He, in that little plain chat that he had, he said, I gave you the full results when talking about the MRI. But no, they very much did not. The actual summary that was released by his physician did not mention an MRI. Donald Trump just assumed that it did, which is why he revealed it. And so that's two interesting questions to ask. And I apologize that I don't have any answers for it. Why did they give him an MRI? And once they gave him an MRI, why did they leave it off the summary? Why not just, if it's such a casual thing, and in fact, he's in perfect health, as he said, why not just include it at that point? Strange, isn't it, that they're leaving that off? And since they're refusing to give us actual information, we have to look at the information that we have. We know that his hand has been bruised for between 1 to 2 years now, seemingly constantly. Every appearance, you can see the makeup that he has done such a terrible job of hiding it with. And Dr. Reiner, in that appearance on CNN, said that there's a couple of different explanations for why you would have that, but the most common would be for the injection of medicines, including blood thinners. But obviously, you don't just take blood thinners like for fun or whatever because you like to party. You do it as a result of some concern about your health. And again, they're not really talking about that either. So there's some evidence that they can't hide. They clearly can't hire, I don't know, like a talented TikTok makeup artist to teach him how to blend or whatever. So they're not gonna be able to hide that. And they can't physically hide the cankles. What pair of pants could? And so we know about that. And now there's the cognitive test being given. And again, and the MRI. But for the cognitive, like the MRI, obviously he had some sort of complaint that they scanned him for. With the cognitive test, it was his second annual physical. Like, how many times per year do you need to test him for the same thing? And again, I apologize, I don't have answers for literally any of this, but it is curious. And especially that Donald Trump potentially is being lied to by his team about what the nature of the tests are, since he seems to think that he's taking IQ tests when clearly they're giving him dementia tests. They don't want him to know that that's what they are. And then with the MRIs, he thinks that all that is being released to the public, but it isn't. Again, for some reason, even if I can't say what, because they're being so opaque about this entire thing.